Thank you for tuning in to the Simple Sophisticate podcast, the show that is part of the Simply Luxurious Life online destination. Visit the blog, thesimplyluxuriouslife.com, to find the show notes for each podcast episode, as well as much more weekly content to elevate your everyday and deepen your contentment. From recipes, motivational posts, videos of the cooking show series, style and decor inspiration, French and British inspired content, and the reader's favorite regular weekly post, This and That, which goes live on the blog every Friday. Now to today's episode. Welcome to the Simple Sophisticate podcast, where intelligent living is paired with signature style. I'm your host, Shannon Ables. And whether you're listening on your commute, exercising, working in the garden, or sitting down with a hot cup of tea or a café au lait, thank you for tuning in. Let's get started. Welcome to the 302nd episode of the Simple Sophisticate. Over the weekend, I quietly celebrated my 42nd birthday. It was lovely. It was full of much contemplation. It included delicious food and wine. And the last day of February brought the sunshine, which found me out in my garden preparing for spring. Over the past 12 months, all of our lives have experienced unexpected moments, ahas, wonderings, fears, breakthroughs, and endless other unplanned daily routine shifts and lifestyle adjustments. In today's episode, I'm going to share with you what I did last year. I'm going to share with you some life lessons that for me, I discovered during the course of the past 12 months. Now, perhaps some of the lessons I share with you today won't come as a surprise if you follow the Simply Luxurious Life blog and listen to this podcast. And for every lesson I share, and you'll find this on the show notes, if there is a post or episode that explores that idea further, I will make sure to link it so that you can further explore that if you're interested. All in all, much has been learned, as I have a feeling it has for you as well. Much was unexpected, and much I am incredibly thankful presented itself, and equally am I thankful that I chose to try to understand why that lesson said hello in my life. So let's get to the 21 lessons learned in my 42nd year. Number 1, fresh flowers in the home immediately boost the peace and comfort in the daily routine. If you visit the show notes, you'll see a picture that I captured over the weekend. I welcomed quite a bundle of spring flowers from Trader Joe's into my house. I had some daffodils, I had tulips, I had some freesias, and I just added that burst of color. And I have to say, it's a deep sigh of pleasure and contentment. And as I shared earlier, in the past 12 months, there are many ways you can bring these flowers into your home, and they need not be expensive. They can be quite simple, and I've shared 12 simple ideas for beautiful flowers in the home, and I've linked that on today's show notes. Number 2 is that beneficial reassurance can only come from within. Now, I actually talked about this more in depth in February's A Cup of Moments, so my top tier subscribers will know why I share this lesson. And I'm going to keep the rest of it very private to me. But I can sincerely say that beneficial reassurance that actually does do what you hope it does cannot come from others. It can only come from within. That's number 2. Life lesson number 3, gardening is a way of life which elevates life. I have fallen head over heels or trowel over bended knee or whatever the good analogy would be for gardening. I have fallen for it. In fact, just today, as I've taped, prior to taping today's episode, I was outside, as I mentioned, in the garden, trimming back my Carl Forsters, of which I think I have 15 or 16, which provided beauty in the winter because nothing else was growing. And they are not growing, they're just tall grasses, but the wave in the wind just creates a very calm serenity that I love watching along the edge of my property. And cutting those down was bringing spring to, the starting line, basically saying, okay, we're ready for you. Bring on the warmth, bring on the sun, bring on the longer days. But understanding the seasons is a great reminder on how to approach how to live. And I've shared in a couple posts, but I'll share the first one. Why not try gardening? 10 whole life benefits. I've linked that in today's show notes if you want to explore why it really is a wonderful hobby or pastime to engage in. Number 4, quality investments made before they are necessary, in whatever realm. It could be your home, it could be your savings, it could be your clothing, you name it. If you do it before you need it, and it is a smart investment, it allows for a life of more ease and a stronger foundation when times become rough, whether directly to you or indirectly to you, as we saw in the pandemic. So many different things were experienced, and so much of it was unexpected. That's number 4. 5, reading is one of the best ways to spend time in lockdown because the growth never ceases, no matter what is happening in the outside world. If the outside world stops, if we keep reading, we keep learning, we keep growing, we keep exploring, we can travel vicariously. There's so many ways to keep the joy going. Follow your curiosity is what I've been doing with my books, especially this year, but always. And I've just learned so much and thoroughly enjoyed the books that I've found. And as I've shared here on the blog and the show here on the podcast, there are just so many ways to learn. Number 6, quality lamps, so table lamps and floor lamps, provide more comfort, better ambiance, and a true sense of welcome and warmth. I've been adding in a couple of new lamps, both one floor and 2 table, and not only is the quality better, so the light and the dimmer or the level of brightness or not so bright that is achieved just changes the quality of that space. And I've also rearranged lamps that I've had for a long time. In fact, I had a lamp from my bedroom that still worked. It's been with me for about 20 years. And I moved it out into near the kitchen, on a console near the kitchen, and it just creates the nice soft light that if you're not in the kitchen, but you still want to create, awareness that the house, there's movement, there's people in the home, but it's more warmth and cozy. I just love it. So just that is just something to always remember. Lamps create an amazing kind of undescribable comfort. 7, thinking well is a choice. How we think well, as we talk many times here, is to continually grow. Choose to grow, choose to explore, keep your mind open so that your perspective is vast, gaining more information, not always knowing that you're right or believing that you're right, asking questions, asking the right questions, and that is how we learn how to think well. Number 8, thinking well enables you to live well. We talk about this frequently, not just this past year, but in many years. But what I've learned more than anything is it takes time for things to come together, and good choices will bring into your life amazing outcomes, but they don't always happen swiftly. So have patience and trust your decisions. Number 9, quality chocolate and quality butter create a delectable, satiating dessert. Ho, 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 isn't that true? Quality ingredients. But I was just making a cake over the weekend. I made Julia Child's Reine de Saba, so the almond flourless chocolate cake, and I turned it into small little mini cakes, and they were just wonderful. But I used high quality chocolate, I used high quality butter, and it was just wonderful. So simple little shifts or changes that make a big difference. Number 10, match strikers for the home. Style meets function. This is something I posted about last spring, and I have a post linked on today's show notes. It's that decor detail you didn't know you needed, the match striker. I have a couple or 3 now around my house, and I don't know what I did without them. Keeps things stylish, but still makes your matches easily accessible. Number 11 is mental strength is fundamental for a life of true contentment. The primary and fundamental component of living simply luxuriously is to achieve true contentment. And how to achieve that is what everything that we talk about here is all about. And it builds upon each other and it contributes to each other. And over the last 12 months, I wrote a post called 10 Ways to Cultivate a Mental Diet that Elevates the Quality of Your Life. Knowing how our mind works and choosing to keep it strong is a priceless gift we can give ourselves. Now, I have 10 more life lessons that I want to share with you. It's been a year of all sorts of discoveries, and I will get back to that list after a brief word from today's sponsor. Bombas makes the most comfortable socks in the history of feet. They've literally rethought every little detail of the socks we wear to make them way more comfortable. I have been wearing them nearly every day for over a year. In fact, I was just wearing them out in the garden with my garden boots, and they stay put, they keep my foot covered, and they last a long time through many, many washes. But these socks do more than just keep feet cozy. They help give back to the most vulnerable members of our community because for every pair of socks you purchase, Bombas donates a pair to someone in need. The generosity of Bombas customers has allowed them to donate over 40 million pairs of socks and counting through their nationwide network of 3,000 plus giving partners. And the impact is more powerful than ever. To those experiencing homelessness, these socks represent the dignity of putting on clean clothes, a small comfort that's especially important right now. As a Simple Sophisticate listener, give a pair when you buy a pair and get 20% off your first purchase at bombas.com/sophisticate. That's Bombas, BOMBAS.com/sophisticate for 20% off your first purchase. That's bombas.com/sophisticate. Welcome back. Let's get back to the 10 remaining life lessons learned in my 42nd year. Number 12, shedding the layers of the shoulds from the outside world, identifying them, and then liberating yourself will simplify your life choices and fundamentally change your life journey for the better. This is that self-examination that is something that we need to continually do and continually be aware of. But the more we do it, the more quickly we are able to ascertain what is coming from within and what is being influenced by the outside world. And when we can identify that, it becomes easier to acknowledge, yes, this works for me. No, this doesn't. Or why am I doing this? For approval from them or because I sincerely want to do it? And that has been put into practice for me more this past year than ever. And it's making me become very clear about some decisions that I will announce later this year. And I'm very excited about. And the post that I have shared on the show notes for this to deepen the exploration of this issue, of this topic, is unbecoming who you are not in order to remember who you are. That's number 12. 13, slowing down as a regular way of life is a better way to live. You know, if nothing else, one of the most beneficial experiences for a lot of people that if they have not been directly hit by the pandemic is a slower pace. And I hear that many, many times from many different readers of all walks of life and from neighbors and friends. And that's what I especially loved about this time. So why not make it more permanent? I wrote a post about this last year, slowing down to live well. You can explore it more by going to the show notes. That's number 13. Number 14, creating a cozy home, creating a welcoming home is my driving focus. I shared earlier this year 34 ideas for adding cozy to your everyday and really just specifically listed all these ways we can bring more cozy into our lives. And it's largely inspired by the British culture, but not all. There are a lot of French influence as well of things that I just independently have found to work. But having those simple little ideas incorporated into your life make a tremendous difference in your peace of mind. And again, back to that age-old phrase for this blog and podcast, true contentment. Number 15, moments of temporary discomfort along the journey as you intentionally change your life are a sign of your old life wanting to draw you back to what it knows. This is normal, and it will gradually subside so long as you just acknowledge that that's normal and then keep striving forward. Because when you strive forward into your new way of life, life will reward you with deeper contentment. That's number 15. 16, trust yourself when it comes to your home decor. Have patience, seek out expertise, and then proceed confidently without seeking approval from the masses. Style over trends will keep you happier and more content in your home for many years to come. Number 17, let's talk about food. I love crepes. I was making crepes all year as we started into the pandemic. I was figuring out how to make buckwheat crepes with prosciutto and Gruyere and egg, technically called galettes. I was making sweet crepes with brown butter and lemon and sugar. I've shared those recipes on the show notes, but my crepe pen is being used far more these days, and I'm so glad it's part of my life. That's 17. 18, a good cuppa is an everyday necessity. More like a couple cuppas. It's my life. So I've shared the link that was quite popular last year, 18 ways to enjoy a good cuppa. But that's just something that will always be part of my daily routine. Number 19, tending to our tasks only and letting go of tending to others is to set yourself free. Now, if you listen to last month's podcast episode 301, The Courage to Live Fully and Deeply, 7 Ideas to Put into Practice for a Life of True Contentment, you know what I'm talking about. This was inspired from the book, The Courage to Be Disliked. I cannot tell you how helpful and insightful that was, and it helped to simply decide what should I be focusing my attention on and what do I need to let go of. Focus on my tasks and let others focus on theirs. That's number 19. Number 20, being present, engaging with the world as it presents itself to you, creates amazing magic. Earlier this year, I wrote a post focused on being present and being aware and how that combination, that equation, is a powerful one for living a very good life. And you can find that link to that post on today's show notes. Number 21, trust your intuition and be motivated to follow your hopes, not remain where you are because of fear. A post I shared late last year called How Fear Can Be an Opportunity for Amazing Life Changes is worth exploring to understand how rich this past year can be when it comes to opportunity if we only choose to see certain difficulties or challenges in a different way. So that's the list. 21 life lessons that came into my life and I'm very grateful for. Each birthday for all of us is a celebration of the year and the lessons and the gifts from the past. And it also is a gift to have another year commence full of auspicious possibility. I want to thank everyone who sent birthday wishes on this past Friday's This and That. Thank you so much. It made me smile more than you know. And may your birthday, wherever it falls on the calendar, be as bright and as hope-filled as you dare to allow it. Now, I've included on today's show notes the past 3 years' birthday life lesson posts and episodes. As I mentioned, episode 279 from last year was an episode about 15 life lessons learned from my 42nd birthday. And then the previous year was a post sharing valuable lessons I learned in my 30s, as well as my 39th year, which shares 15 more life lessons. So those are all linked on the show notes, thesimplyluxuriouslife.com/podcast 302. But I'll be right back with this week's Petite Presier. This week's Petite Presier is the film starring Carey Mulligan and Ralph Fiennes in The Dig. Now, this is set in the late 1930s in England, just as England is about to go to war. And it's on Netflix now, and I cannot tell you how wonderful this film is. If you're looking for a calm, beautiful film that tells a story that actually happened and in such a beautiful way, you're going to enjoy this film. The acting is superb. Lily James is also in this from Downton Abbey. And this is just a film that brings to light a lot of lovely, unique, intriguing questions. As the New York Times reviewer wrote, who owns history? And it also talks about social issues through the lives of the characters with regards to sexual repression and loneliness, because we're talking about a widow, but we're also talking about a handful of other characters during that time in history that are living lives that society accepts but would not have chosen likely for themselves. It is calming in an odd way. It is contemplative for a lot of different themes. And well, I'll let the trailer do the talking. Here it is.
Should we take a look at them then?
Right. Things like this are usually done through museums.
Yes, but with the war coming, they couldn't embark upon any new ventures.
Well, I've been on digs since I was old enough to hold a trowel. My father taught me.
What are they?
We're standing in someone's graveyard, I reckon. Viking? Oh, maybe older.
Mr. Brown is an archaeologist.
Well, I'm an excavator.
You've come to dig up the mounds.
So you think there's something beneath?
Who are those men?
They're from the museum.
Ye gods!
Mrs. Pretty, I think you'd better come and see.
Why would anyone want to bury a ship?
I'd expect this is a grave of a warrior or a king.
But there's more. There's much more.
War's looming. All hands are on deck to excavate before hostilities begin.
The Dark Ages are no longer dark.
Everyone's going to want a piece, and this is your find. Why else will you be playing around in the dirt while the rest of the country prepares for war? That means something, doesn't it?
From the first human handprint on a cave wall, we're part of something continuous.
Life is very fleeting. I've learnt that. Would you have dinner with me?
Yes?
It has moments you should seize.
A man could dig the earth his whole life through. Not find anything like I've discovered here.
Steer it steady, Mr. Brown. We're coming towards the edge of the atmosphere.
You say the word, and I'll dig.
One thing of many that I found fascinating about this film was the writer of this screenplay. She adapted it from John Preston's book, The Dig. And what I really appreciated this, I actually will attach a link to a detailed article about Maura Buffini. She, in the interview of this post, which she has on the website Shondaland, talks about how this book resonated with her when she approached it to write the screenplay. She said, it's about outsiders, which is what resonated with me. Basil Brown, that is the archaeologist who comes and excavates the Anglo-Saxon ship. He is such an outsider, and so is Peggy. With regards to Lily James's character, because of her gender in a group of male archaeologists. And what resonates with the current mood is the fact that it's set in this glorious summer of 1939 as the world was on the brink of something dreadful. Nobody knows what the future is going to be like, except that something really bad is coming. When we were shooting the film, we had no idea that most of the post-production would be undertaken in lockdown and that the industry would be, in effect, shut down. Nobody could foresee what was going on. There is the same feeling of the future suddenly becoming very fragile now. Everyone is experiencing that this year, feeling the preciousness of whom you've got around you. What is your legacy? What matters? What do you leave behind? And so it is this development of characters, of these outsiders, that really makes this film rich. I found myself in tears, enjoying it so much. from a young son who is more developed as a character in the film than in the book, to, as we just said, Lily James's character, to the widow that is played by Carey Mulligan, Edith, and of course Ralph Fiennes' character, Basil Brown, but many others as well. So the film is The Dig. It's available on Netflix, and I think you will enjoy it. I hope you've enjoyed this week's Petite Presier, where each week ideas are shared to make the everyday all the more enjoyable. Tune in at the end of each episode where I'll recommend a book, a film, a show, a recipe, anything that is a simple pleasure to satiate your sophisticated taste. I want to thank you for tuning in today, wishing you a beautiful start to a brand new month, and I'll be back with a new episode in 2 weeks on the 15th of March. Bonne journée. Thank you for tuning in to the Simple Sophisticate podcast, where intelligent living is paired with signature style. For more ideas and inspiration throughout the week, visit the blog, thesimplyluxuriouslife.com, or pick up my latest book, Living the Simply Luxurious Life, Making Your Everydays Extraordinary and Discovering Your Best Self, now available on Audible and wherever audiobooks are sold, as well as in paperback and ebook versions. You can also pick up my first book, Choosing the Simply Luxurious Life, A Modern Woman's Guide, which is also available in paperback, ebook, and as an audiobook as well. To stay caught up on the most recent episodes of the podcast, blog posts, the cooking show, and receive exclusive news as well as an extra dose of inspiration to jumpstart your weekend, subscribe to the Simply Luxurious Life's free weekly newsletter, which arrives in your inbox each Friday to enjoy with a hot cup of tea or cup of morning coffee. Until next Monday, I'm your host, Shannon Ables. Bonne journée!